Hello friends, I hope you're well. I have a different type of video for you today. I wanted to talk about Minnesota, the melty ice hat pattern, and ask the question of, is it performative? Before we jump in, I thought I would give you some context in a nutshell about what's happening in Minnesota. As part of Trump's Operation Metro Surge, as part of his mass deportation policy, 3,000 federal troops descended on the state in December. Before that, there were only 150. Since then, over 4,000 people who the White House calls, quote, criminal illegal aliens have been detained. Aside from the dehumanizing language, it's wrong to claim that all those detained were criminal or illegal. And then in January, ICE officers killed 2 American citizens, Renee Good and Alex Pretty. This caused uproar in the state and then also outside, with protests happening everywhere. ICE agents also shot a Venezuelan man in the leg. So let's talk about the hat and why this hat is such a potent symbol. The melty ice hat pattern came about when Paul Neary, an employee at Needle and Skein, a local yarn shop in Minneapolis, was researching different symbols of resistance, and what came up was the Norwegian hat. In 1940, Germany invaded Norway. They wanted to get a foothold in the North Atlantic, they wanted to disrupt iron shipments, and they also wanted to spread their propaganda. They initially wanted to win over hearts and minds, but Norway, they were just not accepting it, and the puppet government began to clamp down on resistance, essentially, signs of dissent. Anything that was considered distinctly Norwegian, the flag, outlawed. And this is where that red hat is interesting, because it is taken from the distinctly Norwegian tale of the Nissa, a little gnome-like creature who eats porridge. Another popular symbol at the time was paper clips pinned on lapels to signal togetherness. Now, when these hats were popularized, it was actually before the Battle of Stalingrad, which many consider to be a turning point in World War II. People were terrified that Germany would win. Not only was the hat a powerful symbol of resistance, of civilian and cultural resistance, it also made people think twice about turning to the other side. Since some feared that this repressive regime would win, you might want to be on their good side if they did win. But seeing these silent symbols that your friends, your neighbours, your peers are wearing, it shows you're still fighting, you're not giving up. Something that has been levelled at this particular pattern is performativity, and I don't think that's true, because to buy the pattern, there's a knit, crochet and Tunisian crochet pattern. They all cost $5. All of the proceeds go to local immigration charities. That in and of itself makes this not performative. I think what is performative is if you take the pattern, the original pattern, and you make it available for free with like a couple minor tweaks, then you are detracting from the cause. If you are just posting a picture of your hat whip on Instagram, but you haven't donated the $5 or you haven't signed a petition or written to a politician, that detracts from the cause. Or if you are pumping out a lot of these hats and selling them for personal profit, that is also detracting from the cause. The truth is, every type of activism is performative in some way, and there is no perfect form of activism. The knit designer Paul Neary shared this kind of sentiment in an Instagram post, and he said that it wins over attention and it gets media attention, it gets people talking. And in that way, aside from the $600,000 raised from these patterns, it has been a huge success. Every major news publication and news outlet has covered this. People are talking about it and people are paying attention. There is a very real issue of Trump fatigue, and I guarantee if you were scrolling, say, on X, and you saw a headline with Trump says, you might just feel exhausted and not want to engage with it. But if you use something cultural like the hat as a sort of vehicle to make people engage with the news, maybe you're more likely to click on that and read it and engage with it. And it's also important to say that the original red hat also faced this criticism in Norway later on after the war. But now in history, we see it for what it was. It was a symbol of resistance. And making one of these hats or wearing one of them has power in and of itself, because you're signalling to marginalised groups, whether in the US or in the UK. We have an issue here in the UK of a rising right wing, that you are a safe person, that they're not in danger around you, that you are, for all intents and purposes, on their side. And there's also the real tangible quality of fibre-based craftivism. When you think of the medium of yarn, it is something soft and there's a warmth to it, and that creates a really powerful juxtaposition to the militarized appearance of the ice agents and their weapons. Fibre art and craftivism, it's a gentle form of protest, but it is incredibly powerful. There is something very disarming about it as well. The administration attempted to vilify Renee Good and Alex Pretty. They claimed that they were domestic terrorists and left-wing agitators, and that's just not true. In the case of Renee Good, she was a 37-year-old mother of 3, she was a writer and she was a poet. You can see in the videos that have been run by various news publications that she's not aggressive at all. She says to them, "I'm not angry at you," and she seems very cheery. And they try to get her out of the car. She attempts to leave, and there is a guy who is in front of her car, kind of by her front headlight. It's very clear that she's not trying to ram him, as the Trump administration had claimed. She's not steering into him, she is trying to leave. And they shoot her. She doesn't knock the guy off his feet. They kill her, and she did not need to die. And with Alex Pretty, they claim that he was resisting arrest and was holding a gun. But he was holding a cell phone. Again, he didn't need to die. This is not a partisan issue. This is not a left versus right issue. I don't think that it's productive to see things in that way anyway, in that binary. But what this is, it is being told not to trust the evidence of your eyes, of what you can see, the accounts of eyewitnesses. And there's another word for that, and it's called gaslighting. And meanwhile, with the backdrop of this, you have kids too terrified to go to school in Minneapolis. Absentee rates are skyrocketing. You have reports of children having trauma responses to being told that there are ICE agents nearby. They're known to hang out around schools, around bus stops. Children are frightened. And as I previously mentioned, the White House has really celebrated this figure of 4,000 people being detained, who they call criminal illegal aliens, again dehumanizing language. One of those criminal illegal aliens is 5-year-old Liam Ramos, who his image went all around the world. He's wearing a blue bunny hat and a Spider-Man backpack. His dad had a pending asylum claim and he was taken, and there are reports that he was used as, quote, bait by the ICE officers to try and get the mum outside the house as well. They were taken to Texas. And something also to consider is why Minnesota, and the reason is very clear. The White House has made this very clear. They claim it is to deal with, quote, problems associated with unchecked Somali refugee settlement in Minnesota. And in it they say that the state is ripe for radicalization and they cite a recent fraud scandal. Now that might also bring to mind the type of remarks that Trump has made against Somalis. In his Davos speech, he claimed that they have low IQs. And you don't need me to tell you why that is so dangerous, why othering a group of people, a minority, is dangerous, why using weird race science about intelligence is dangerous, why using dehumanizing language is dangerous. What it is, blatantly, firstly, it's racist, and secondly, it's wrong. So where do we go from here? Looking ahead, in February on the 26th, there will be a global day of protest. That's according to Red Hat Factory on Instagram. He says that this date has been chosen for the Day of Resistance Against Power Abuse and Division because that is the date in 1942 that the Nazis made the red hats, the original red hats, illegal. In the meantime, whether you're in the US or outside the US like I am, you can still help out, even if you cannot put boots on the ground necessarily to protest in person. You can buy the pattern for $5. You can make the hat. You can sign petitions. You can message your politicians, particularly if you're in the US, but also outside of it. In Ireland, for example, where I'm a citizen, my Taoiseach, my Prime Minister, goes to the White House every St. Patrick's Day, which is in March. And if enough Irish people are right, then hopefully that's something that will come up. And I think that if knitting the hat is all you can do, it's all you have capacity to do, and all that is accessible to you, then do that, because it still matters. Let's just not feel powerless. So that's all from me today. If you enjoyed this more journalistic, serious type of video, do let me know. Let me know if there's anything that you'd like me to cover, or if there is anything that you want made sense of. Outside of YouTube, I am a journalist. That's my career. I'm hoping to write something about the Melt the Ice pattern for work. And if I do, I will let you guys know in a community post. So do make sure to subscribe and hit the bell so you don't miss that. This is of course a crochet channel, and usually it's quite light-hearted, but I felt it was so important to use my platform, however small and tiny, to encourage people to have a look at these patterns, have a look at ways of helping, register to vote. No matter where you are, register to vote. For anyone interested, this is a progress I'm making on the crochet version. This is a pattern by Sarah Sward. It's available on Knit and Skein's website and also on Ravelry. I'll include all the links down below, and as well as that, I'll also include some of the sources that I used to chat about the topics raised in today's video. But it's coming along really well, and I'm excited to finish it. I hope that you have a good weekend wherever you are in the world, that you find some moments of joy, and I will see you in the next one. Take care. Bye bye.